The biggest risks in lending is getting caught in a daisy chain. What is it? Today we're going to talk about what they are, how to avoid them, and how to get out of one when you're stuck in it. All right, let's do this. All right, hello, welcome back to another episode of Finance Agents Live. This is episode number 85. Joke?
Yeah,
Trey?
I got one here. I got one.
Oh, Darren's got one. All right,
Yeah,
we're all missing
it's not a
Rhoda this
joke,
week.
but it's a
Go
fun
for it, Darren.
fact.
Oh,
Number 85 is the song title by Andy Grammer,
Oh.
talking about money.
There we go.
Okay, wait,
Okay.
are you going to play the song? No?
I can't.
All right, okay, I like Trey's joke better.
The Street 85, there's two potatoes on the corner.
Two potatoes.
Two potatoes.
Okay.
And how can you tell which one? I can't finish the joke. So I'm not gonna finish it.
Can't even say it. Nope. Oh my God. All right. Well, we're moving along. Let's see here. Okay. Today we're going to be talking about daisy chains. As we said, what are they? How to avoid them? How to recognize them? How to get out fast? Daisy chains. We love them. Right, Trey?
That's right. That's not right, Bob.
They're the best.
Daisy chains are a problem in our industry, so we definitely want to be mindful to stay out of them. So we're going to be going over the the reasons why and how to get out of it. So daisy chains are no bueno.
That's right. I got an awesome Winston Churchill quote. If you're going through hell, keep going. Daisy chains are basically hell. You got to just get through them and move on. It's a risk. You're going to run into it when you're doing brokering. There's no way around it. The best we could do is show you how to recognize, how to avoid them, how to recognize them, how to get out fast when you find yourself in one, because you will. And there's really no way around it. If you're watching this and you have your own daisy chain story, maybe you already know what I'm talking about, throw it into the comments. We would love to hear it. We're going to be telling you ours. But first of all, if you don't know what a daisy chain is, here it is. There's two types. What are the two types of daisy chains? Trey Sublet.
One, the blind leading the blind.
Okay.
So, example, you're dealing with Jack, who calls you up and he has a scenario. He runs it by you, but Jack has never talked to the lead. It came from, he has another source. So you're over more than one person away from the source. Two people away from the source, three people from the source. So
No idea where the source is
idea.
or where the client is. You might be in the middle of nowhere. All right, so that's the first. What's the other one?
too many chiefs, not enough Indians. So
Yeah.
I like to use too many chefs in the kitchen.
All right,
So,
or you're from
chiefs,
Texas,
chefs.
all hat, no cattle, right?
Okay, I've never heard that.
You never heard that one? You're from Texas.
I've never heard that.
That's all they said over there.
No.
All right, anyway, so yeah, two types. The blind leading the blind is when nobody knows what the heck is going on and everybody thinks you're going nowhere fast. I've seen a lot of those. And the other one, everybody thinks they are the man in charge and trying to call it, or the woman in charge trying to call the shots, but nobody really has the authority to do so. Those are the two main scenarios, right? But to go into a little more detail, daisy chains are, in my experience, a bunch of people who know nothing, arguing about how much money they're never going to make, talking to people who have no real access to anything of value.
So the hard part is people are more concerned about how much they're going to make instead of the concerns of their client or the lead itself. So this is actually very harmful to the individual, the lead we're trying to help. So don't worry about commissions and payouts. Let's talk about the different program or the solution for this individual first and foremost.
All right, I'm realizing I probably wasn't specific enough on what a daisy chain is. A daisy chain is when one person is referring a deal to another person who refers it to another person to another person. Once you start stringing together 3 or 4 people into a deal, you have the worst version of the telephone game where you're trying to make money, but nobody's getting any help. Nobody is really talking to anybody who matters, right? So once you have more than two, there's really always two parties in a deal, right? You got the buyer and the seller, or the client seeking funding and the person doing the funding. Every extra person that is in between increases the chance exponentially that the deal's going to blow up. So when we talk about daisy chains, that's a specific type of thing we're talking about. And it's either going to lead you to funding programs that aren't real, total BS and waste of time, or you're going to end up blowing up a deal that would have worked because you got too many people asking for money. And some of the attributes of a daisy chain, Trey, are?
Well, one of the biggest things is extremely low conversion rates. So deal never closes. You never get to the finish line. So you're basically wasting your time going through this process. So deals don't close.
Right. Sooner you get out, the better. It's simply, the sooner you get out, the less you lose. Once you're in a daisy chain, you're already losing. The moment you recognize, hey, this is the daisy chain, you've already lost your investment of time, and it's all just comes down to how much more time are you going to waste. There's no winning, only an amount of losing, and you're trying to minimize that, right?
My most valuable asset is time.
Right.
So I cannot lose that time. It can be, I want to avoid any type of time suck.
We value your time too, Trey.
Oh, thank you. All right.
All right, so I'm going to start off with one specific story, which is a blind leading the blind story. And this is going to sound a little bit out there, but when I first got into lending brokering, I started working with Trey, and we were doing small deals, $100,000, $200,000 fundings, and I started having people come to me saying, hey, I have somebody who needs $100 million, or here's the first example of something that I worked on kind of for like a month, and this is when I realized this is a complete waste of time. Somebody looking for, I'm not joking because I feel kind of stupid saying this now, but $1 billion for an oil refinery in Suriname.
Easy.
Now, if you don't know what the heck Suriname is, I didn't know either, so a little geography lesson. It's down in South America. I won't go into the whole story, but basically we had a guy who owned an island and was going to put an oil refinery there, needed a lot of money, had deals with the president, and hijinks ensued, right? So basically what happened is somebody comes to me and they say, hey, do you got a source for this? And I start talking to other people and they're like, hey, you got a source for this? And the reality is, I don't know if there really was a real client. Maybe some joker was pulling an April Fool's on somebody 3 years ago and made up some pamphlets, and it's not even real. And then the people I was talking to, they would say, oh yeah, I got a guy. And then you'd spend a week arguing about commissions and you'd get through to his guy. And then that guy's like, yep, I got a guy. And then you find there's like more and more steps of separation. At some point I realized after an extra lengthy argument about who's going to get what when we all really had nothing, I realized this is an amazing, colossal waste of time, and I swore them off and said I'd never do them again, and I never looked back. So that is my first $1 billion oil refinery in Suriname. That was a hard lesson of wasted time. Do you know anything about this recent factoring deal? So that was a blind leading the blind. Here's one. Too many chiefs, not enough Indians. Do you know the details on this one, or you want me to?
I really go right ahead. So, I want to comment on the last one here.
Okay.
What's really important is to understand the solutions you have in place for yourself, and if the deal or the scenario is outside of those solutions, that's when you may want to exit. And
right.
And you want to stick with what you know instead of going out there and trying to find, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, and you may think, like, why the heck did you stay in that thing? It sounds silly or ridiculous. Because everybody just kept saying, hey, man, if I just get 1 point on this deal, it's like $1 million, And so it's pretty exciting, the idea that you're going to get $1 million for knowing nothing and doing nothing but arguing with people. It really is just a waste of time. So here, again, that's a blind leading the blind. Nobody knew what the heck was going on. I don't even know if it was real. Here's another one. Too many chiefs, not enough Indians. Recently, we had a client come to us through an agent, and we deal with this a lot because we have agents that bring in a deal to a member office, brings it into headquarters, and then we take it to a lender. It's almost a daisy chain right there, but we have specific things we do to stop it. But this deal came in, we took it to a lender, we got it approved for factoring, pretty significant loan amount or factoring amount that he got pre-qualified for. And then we sent out the fee agreement to the borrower to sign. Then the fee agreement came back to us, and what? Somebody stuck an extra page in there with an extra $30,000 commission to somebody we literally never heard of before and didn't know who they were. And when we asked the agent, hey, what is this? They said, oh, you weren't supposed to see that. They want us to send it directly to the lender. That's an example of people trying to shove money and commissions in there, very, very specific commission structures. And you know what you're going to get paid if you get a deal through us because we publish our rates. And this is what happens when people slide stuff in. Basically, one of two things is going to happen. Either the client's going to kill the deal because they don't like all the extra fees, or afterwards the client's going to pay that one first and refuse to pay us, say, I already paid. Or the lender's going to find out and kill the deal because they think we're trying to be sneaky. Either way, it's going to kill the deal.
So this goes back to working with people you know. So we're in the relationship business, so work with relationships you're used to, so you don't have any surprises that sneak up on you for $30,000.
Yeah, right? That's a significant surprise. All right, here's another one. I talked about those weird ones. In that time I was looking at that $1 billion oil refinery. I had a bunch of other ones come through. Another one was a $100 million gas purchase by the Canadian Air Force. I mean, it doesn't get any weirder than this stuff. You're like, Canadian Air Force is looking for gas. I don't know. I mean, I feel ridiculous talking about this stuff right now. But I tell you, right now there are thousands of people arguing with each other about deals that are somewhat like this, and they have no idea who the client is, and they have no idea who the source is. They're having mandates for buyers for these offers. If you're doing this right now, you're probably completely wasting your time. You're like, I just get one of these things to go through. I'm getting $1 million commission. It's worth 3 years of work. But most likely just completely wasting your time on absolutely
The reason why I don't have
nothing.
any examples, Tim, because when I see Canadian, I see $1 billion.
Just kill it.
Just
Hey, I was
right
new,
on
man.
by.
I was new. I don't know what I was doing. What's the thing that you see the most for these kind of deals?
So the problem I come across is relying on certain relationships, and we pre-approve that person for whatever program. I have an example, a gentleman in Chicago. I've worked with him for years. He sent someone in. We pre-qualified someone. When I went over it with him, he said, "Well, let me go to the broker." So I made the wrong assumption that he was dealing with this person directly, and now he has to go and talk to someone else, and he's never talked to the client. So in my mind, I wasted my time.
Right, so you made an offer to the agent. After you presented the offer to the agent went and took it to a broker who is going to offer it to the client. What
Right.
is bad about that?
Well, the biggest thing is the person who's presenting it to your client is not an expert on the program. They're not going to be able to convey the program itself, the benefits, the requirements, and so the closing percentage goes directly down. So we have no contact directly with that lead, and so therefore, in my mind, it's not going to happen.
I have had a number of situations where I've presented an offer to somebody and I'm told they'll never accept this offer because I'm not talking to the client. And then when I actually get through to the client's like, yeah, I love this. I'll take it right away. The person in the middle is killing your deals. They don't know what the heck they're doing. So get them out of the way. That's the best way to deal with these. Either get them out of the way or walk away. Either way, it's a waste of time. All right, so again, this is how to avoid them. Getting into this topic, the first and number one thing to do to eliminate the problem of daisy chains is
Talk directly with the client. We want to have direct access to the individual. The other person can be involved, absolutely, but we have direct access to that individual. Therefore, we can convey the program, the solution in a proper fashion to make sure everyone's on the same page and convert deals.
Now, it's interesting, if you're in the middle of a daisy chain, talking directly to the client doesn't completely solve the problem. At least you're talking to the client, that's good, but you're not actually connected to the source. The real goal is to connect the client with a real source so they can actually accomplish something and you have some chance of getting paid. Hopefully, but if you're arguing about fee agreements, you got people killing deals because they want to get their point and they end up just blowing everything up. So talk directly to the client is the first thing to do. Some other things you can do to completely avoid daisy chains. First of all, never sign a non-circumvention, non-disclosure agreement. These are super common in daisy chain circles, right? You say, I got this guy, I've got a lender, they're going to help you. First, you got to sign a non-circumvention with me. And we're like, well, look, I got another guy, and then the client over there, why am I signing a non-circ with you? First of all, they're completely unenforceable, so they're a total waste of time. They're really just a scare tactic. If anybody is asking you to sign a non-circ, you probably should just say no, right? Because there probably isn't even a deal there, so you're just signing yourself to some legal agreement that might expose you to some risk, which is completely unknown and completely unnecessary and probably a good indication you're in a daisy chain. All right, what's another one? My second one. I talk about this all the time.
This is one of Tim's pet peeves, and that is having a non-professional email. So someone has a Hotmail or Gmail. And
Hotmail.
You want to avoid those people, apparently, Tim, right? So they need a professional email to work with. So that's
Right, what's a professional email look like, Trey?
let's see, Trey@FinanceAgents.com.
That's right, and when you go to FinanceAgents.com, you find a real website. You find a real company. If you go look on LinkedIn or Facebook, you actually find a company that's been around for a while. But if it's chucksfunding8@gmail.com, what is this guy, right? If the person doesn't have enough money or technical ability to create a website or any sort of an online presence, maybe they just, maybe they're just complete fraudsters. Now, how much time you want to waste with somebody who's completely lying to you to try to collect upfront fees, right? Somebody needs to have an online presence. So email, and that email should match their actual company, should be a real lender. If you go to the lender's website and it looks like crap, then they're probably not a lender. They're probably some guy who put a website up and they're going to take you to somebody else, and there might be 18 links in that chain, and it's a complete waste of time.
Can I toss in a short aside?
Definitely.
So if you are somebody that is using an email that is like at Gmail or at Yahoo or at AOL.com, which I came across recently.
AOL,
Still exists.
awesome.
You can go to Zoho Mail You can do Google for Business. Both of those are rather inexpensive. In fact, Zoho Mail starts off with 5 gigs for free, so you can connect your domain to it and go ahead and have a professional email set up.
That's after they're upgrading the recruiter level, right?
Well, we do all the work. The work is where the money comes in. If you're able to do it on your own, good luck.
I figured out how to do it on my own. It's not that hard. I'm not a genius, so other people can too. You know, having the email and a website, that's a little bit more. At least have the email, guys. It's super. You go buy a domain name at GoDaddy. They'll give you the email for almost for free, like $5 a month or something. Super cheap. It's way better than having nothing. So the last thing for how to avoid a daisy chain is try to be realistic about what you're bringing to a deal. If somebody needs $100 million for a casino in Vegas, and you've never done any deal like that before and you don't really know a lender, why on earth would they pay you any money? You don't know what you're doing. Why are you going to have some connection? If somebody needs $100 million, they better have their stuff together, right? They better be a legitimate company. If they're going and talking to you for it, that shows that they're either not real or you're probably talking to somebody who really has no control over the client.
And this is one thing where if you're invited to be part of a call, I personally, I want to know their scenario a little bit ahead of time so I can go make sure that it's something within our product mix. So if it's something, again, $100 million in the Canadian Air Force, I don't want to be on that call.
That's your favorite one.
I can't stand it. So knowing a little background before you jump on a call and spend 15, 20 minutes of your day learning about something you're never going to be able to be helpful with whatsoever.
Right. Okay. All right. So we talked about how to avoid them. If you do those things, you're going to avoid them to begin with. How about some of the things you could look for in order to recognize them? And the first one, speaking about the Canadian Air Force or whatever it is, if it sounds crazy,
It probably is.
Probably is, right?
Yeah.
So just save your time and invest it in things that are real. Ask for people for proof of the stuff they've done before, right? What else? If it sounds crazy, it probably is. The person who knows what they're doing is not the one talking to the client. That's another great indicator. If you're learning as you go and you don't know what the heck you're talking about, you got the client over here, you got the real lender. Let's say you actually know who the lender is, but they're not talking to each other. That's a good sign that there's a daisy chain and you need to cut that thing short. What's another way to recognize them, Trey?
Have an idea who the client is, where they came from, what they're trying to do. So if you understand the scenario in detail, you're most likely going to be close to that person. One thing you just mentioned right there, thought of is I've seen times where the client is not allowed to talk to a lender we've matched up with that lender because the source is so protective, like, no, you have to go through me. Well, no, we have to get them on the phone with the lender. So I want to make sure you have direct access to these people and be able to connect them with the lenders we have in place.
Yeah, I remember Trey, we were just talking about it, he told me about a time he got into a conference call. It was supposed to be a call to present an offer to the client. Ended up being people on the call that he didn't even know who they were. And then how did that call go, Trey?
It was pure chaos.
So what happened? Was the client happy with the offer?
I wouldn't know. Wouldn't know. So apparently at that point, I think the client was happy, but one of the parties was not.
I think you said the client wasn't even on the call, right?
The client was on the call, but we progressed a little bit further because they kept coming back. I like to be firm. I don't want to waste my time, so I want to be firm, and they kept coming back trying to renegotiate and reignite the client, but it never came to fruition, even though Rhoda helped tremendously.
Right, so even without the client on the line, the only thing to talk about is for people to yell and argue about the commissions that don't exist because they're killing the deal right then as they speak.
Because supposedly they're watching out for the best interest of that person.
Or their pocketbook.
Right, yeah.
Right. All right, so more ways to recognize them. If you hear a client, if you're talking to the client and they start complaining about already having paid somebody else, they say, I don't want to pay your fees because I already paid this, that's a sign that you're going nowhere fast. And you're probably going to need to have them renegotiate with the person that they already paid or they already agreed to pay. Another way to recognize them is you need to be clearly communicating costs to the client and ask about other things they've paid so you can find out so you can recognize and deal with the problem. You don't want to ignore it and wait till later because it's just going to get worse. You don't want to work on something for a month and have it blow out at the last second because of something like this. All right, so what are some ways to escape with minimum harm from being in the middle of a daisy chain?
Basically have a plan of what you're going to do, how you want to go about working as a professional and stick to that. So that's step number one.
Okay, so that plan's going to be different based on what the product is, right? Because
Yes.
some products will allow people to put extra points in.
Right.
Think about our real estate lending, we have brokers put points on top of our offer all the time. But on the other side, with our credit card program, it's polar opposite. We have set pricing. Nobody's allowed to add stuff on. And, we've lost some business over the years, but in the end, I think we've saved ourselves a lot of heartburn because you don't want to do a bunch of work and then the funding's done and then they refuse to pay because it's too expensive.
Or they say, I've already paid for it.
Right. Yeah. So have clear pricing. That's a way to escape with the minimum harm. Address the client directly, as we've said a number of times. Get the client talking to the person who matters instead of talking to everybody else. I always shorten the chain as quickly as possible. This happens a lot, where I'm talking to somebody who's talking to somebody who's talking to somebody who's talking to the client. I say, hey, can I talk to the client? Because this is going nowhere fast. And that is it. That's the main thing. All right, so that is it for us talking about daisy chains. Next week, we're going to be talking about something that we have seen a lot over the last 10 years. What to do when the bank cuts your line of credit. Everybody loves getting a line of credit. Everybody says, oh, I want to get a $100,000 line of credit. I love it. It's amazing. But they're super likely to get cut. And what do you do when you're standing there and the bank says, hey, that $100,000 you borrowed on that line of credit? Yeah, you got to pay it back to us in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, literally, or 10 days or something like that. You say, how the heck am I going to do that? That's what we're going to be talking about, what to do when you find yourself in that situation, how do you kind of avoid it in advance, and what exactly happens, because we've seen it happen a lot.
Got some questions.
Great. What do we got here? So we got some questions on here. First one. Sorry to be late. You're not late. You're on time.
We'll forgive you.
And we got an off-the-topic subject. When are you going to add an introductory video to the lead page? That would be a little complicated because we have so many different people who use our landing pages. That video would have to be universally appropriate for all of them across a bunch of different brands. I don't know if that could work. But if you're watching this and you want to create your own landing page, there are relatively easy ways to do it. If you have a little bit of technical skill, not even that much. There's services you can go create landing pages, whatever you want, just drag and drop, and you can stick our form in it. And then you can make whatever video you want and do whatever you want.
Darren will help, tech integrate, right?
Darren will help you tech integrate
right.
anytime you like. I think we did a show where we talked about tech integration. Darren's favorite topic. Let's see.
Can you see my face?
Darren loves it.
It's not a word. It's not a thing.
I think tech integrate. Anyway, okay. Somebody said before like a few years back, did we have videos on our lead capture page? Man, that was when was that?
So what the videos were, and I think this is what
You're in the coffee
might
shop.
be referring to.
Oh, the coffee shop video.
Well, it's not just the coffee shop video. We had that, but we also had videos like way back when we had actual client testimonials that you click on and watch.
Right.
Those were
okay.
That was our first entrance into video. So those are very forgiving.
I thought they were good. They were just a little long, but they were good. I mean, they're real people, so it's nice seeing real examples of people we helped. Somebody has a good question that's super relevant to what we were just talking about, so thank you for asking, Kenneth. What do you do if the client wants to continue, but the middle person leaves? So I'm going to restate that. So let's say you're in a daisy chain, right, where you've got a client and you actually know who the client is, so there's a win, and you know who the lender is, but between you and the client is obstructive, idiot, daisy chain, jerk, loser who's trying to kill the deal because he's not getting a full point or whatever. I'm sorry, it's just so annoying, right? Because I've seen so many deals die this way. What do you do? Well, it comes back to, it's a tough one, right?
You have to choose yourself. You have to choose between helping the person or the relationship of that person.
You have to choose.
You have to make a choice.
Because if you cut that guy out, you're never going to get business again. And there could be legal implications if there was a non-circumvention signed. I mean, they're very unlikely to win anything in court, but they can drag you into court, which is no fun. You generate bad will. It's good to address these things in advance before you get into it, so that if it does happen, you say, hey, I brought this up in advance. Nobody's allowed to add extra fees onto this program. We have dealt with this on a case-by-case basis every single time, I would say. As a company, we've trended towards, in more of the programs, not honoring these extra fees stuck in because we've made a firm stance in saying that we don't allow it. On the real estate side, we do allow it, so it's not a problem there. It just depends, right? Sometimes we've had somebody come in and say, hey, this is a very important source. they made a mistake on this one, they won't do it again in the future, but they need it for this week. So we've been open to working with people.
Talk to your affiliate manager. Talk to whoever your point of contact is. Go over the scenario and make a common sense judgment.
I think the most important thing is that you help the client get the funding done. And one way, if this middle person is willing to do it, is say, let's get the client funded and then work through it, because you don't even know what the commission is going to be until the thing's funded a lot of the time. You don't know how much funding somebody's going to get. Most of our programs, you get a percentage of the funding is the actual payout. So, can you think of any examples? Any other examples that you've had? We've seen this happen a lot. You know what I mean?
Right.
It used to happen all the time.
You know, personally, as a consultant, I've become a lot more quick to say no on a scenario. Now, with commercial real estate in the past 3 years, now I got to keep an open mind. But for business lenders in scenarios, as long as you know the programs you have at your fingertips, you can weed out a lot of missteps as far as conversations.
You know, one of the funding programs, SBA loans, you are not allowed to add extra fees. We have a very specific agreement that's been approved by the SBA, which we have to follow the guidelines. If somebody sticks in extra fees, not only can you blow up that client, you could blow up the lender or lose our ability to do SBA loans. So that, of all the programs, that's the one where we're strictest on. And then real estate is wild, wild west, right? If somebody's going to pay it, then whatever, then that's fine with us as long as we get our fees in there. So that's kind of the range. All right, well, with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up for today. Thank you, everybody, for coming on. Look forward to seeing you next week when we talk about the happy topic of getting funds cut and getting sued by lenders, which is always awesome.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Don't forget to subscribe so you can get those little notifications. If you like Trey's shirt, then like the show. If you don't like Trey's shirt, then like the show. Either way, like the show just to let us know that you are thinking about Trey and his shirt.
Right.
All right, everybody, look forward to doing a lot more deals together.
Thank you. Like my shirt.